November meeting for the City of Hudson Public Work Committee. This is November 25th. Our meeting this month is slightly delayed. And my name is Joy Knudsen, and I'm calling our meeting to order, and I'd like to take the roll call. Councilmember Sarah Brooke.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Kennedy.
Here.
Thank you very much. We have our full quorum. Thank you for being in attendance and adjusting your schedule. I'd also like to introduce some of our staff that's present. To my right is Deb Andrews, Executive Assistant for Public Works and Parks Department, and Mike Moraz, who's the Director of Public Works and Parks. And then to my left is Aaron McPhee Anderson, our City Engineer. So our first item of business tonight is to take a look at the minutes from last month. Any comments, corrections from anyone?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
I approved. Thank you very much. At this time, we offer opportunity for citizens to make public comments and come before our committee with any input they have on current or past or hopeful projects for the future, but no one is in attendance tonight, so we'll move past that. We are not having any comments. But starting with new business, we do have several professional guests with us tonight, which we're very grateful for you being here. And I'm going to turn it over here to our staff, in-house staff, in a moment. But our first item is to review the plans and look at some of the discussion points for the Public Works facility. So we have our architectural firm represented tonight, Architectural Design, and our construction management firm. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mike.
Yeah, so another step in the process of moving into the facility at 2101 O'Neill Road. So with us tonight are representatives from Cedar Corporation, who is the lead architect on the project, and then representation from Kraus Anderson, who's a construction management firm that'll basically see the project through once construction starts. So I will basically turn it over to them. They're going to do a presentation on kind of overview of the site, kind of the final plans. I do have a full printout of the final plans here, all 100 and some odd pages, very detailed with mechanical, electrical, plumbing, you name it. I didn't want to include that into the packet just because I think it wasn't probably necessary. But anyways, if you want to look at them afterwards, you can certainly do so. But they'll cover kind of the overview of the site again, and then Ken will go into the numbers that we're looking at, as well as the proposed schedule or timeline that we're looking at as well, as far as moving into the facility. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris, and he'll walk through a presentation for you.
All right. Thank you, guys. As Mike mentioned, I'm Chris Dressler with Cedar Corporation, lead architect on the project. So I just wanted to kind of give you kind of the highlights of everything. I do believe you guys also had in your packet some of the plans and stuff in there, but I just really wanted to highlight the details of this. With Mike's introduction, I don't need to really dwell on this page here, but I'm just going to go into the design highlights of the project. In the site improvements, excuse me, we're looking at heavy-duty asphalt in all the areas where we're putting asphalt, so in that way, as the larger trucks are doing the turning movements, we're not getting a lot of rutting or issues that way, and hold up very well to the equipment. As well as we got concrete approaches to all the overhead doors to avoid any possible heavings and different things like that, to make sure that the operations are able to run smoothly throughout their processes. And then we have fuel island incorporated into the site as well. So then that way, just like the current operations have on their east site, the fuel operations will be similar, a little bit more updated and efficient, where they have a little bit larger tanks, so then that way they don't have to refill those quite so often, and understanding that all the different departments also use the fueling station there as well, so making sure that we have enough there for everybody. And then the other was just improving the site drainage, making sure that we had all the required drainage and to avoid any ponding or anything like that around the site, things like that. So that was kind of the major highlights that I wanted to hit on the site. And then you'll see here just kind of some of those features to the southwest. We have our fuel island, so the traffic will kind of come in by the salt storage shed, and then come around the salt storage shed to the fuel island, fuel up, and then they can come out from the southeast part of the site there.
And then another one of the reasons why we chose that location is just for, obviously the fuel island, they're gonna have a masonry wall around it for blocking visual, but it's just another, being on that southwest corner of the property, it hides it even further from the road. We want to be cognizant of the covenants in the St. Clair Business Park and making sure that we're following them. So that's another reason why we kind of put it down there, because when I originally kind of had a site laid out, I had it kind of on the far north side of the property, right along Harvey, and this works a lot better as far as screening is concerned.
Yeah, it'll be screened, from our screening walls around the actual fuel island, but then also, from the rest of the building that's around the site here. So then, that's kind of, the idea on the site for highlights on the interior renovation. So basically, with this first phase of this project, we're looking at over 14,600 square feet of vehicle storage, along with give or take about 4,000 square feet of maintenance area. So that's going to serve the purpose that we're looking for at the time, and then allow us to expand into the rest of the building once the rest of that building becomes available. And then as part of the project, we did reconfigure and update the restrooms to be sure that the current tenant has separate restrooms, as well as, we looked at into the future, that a lot of the office space will probably end up being in where that current tenant is, and keeping the shop versus office staff restrooms separated would still work well for the Public Works Department. Excuse me. And also in the current employee area will remain as it sits right now. This will kind of act as the current office space for the staff right now. And then once we go into the second phase of this building, that would get renovated at that point for locker rooms or different break room and things like that for the right off the shop there. So at that point, so that's part of the reason why we didn't want to spend a bunch of money renovating that office space when we knew that that was all going to change once the whole building was being utilized. And then also, as part of the renovation, we are updating 8 rooftop units within the building. Some of those were in the tenant space, in that office area for the tenant space. Those will get updated and then would provide for the future expansion for the Public Works as well. And then out in that vehicle storage and maintenance area, we'd be updating the exhaust and ventilation to meet the needs of the requirements of those types of uses, since we're kind of changing that use of that space. So here's just an overall view. So essentially, we've got the main area to the north is on the right side of the page on this view. to the north, kind of centered, is that vehicle storage area. We did add some trench drains and catch basin to capture any water that's coming in with the trucks, with the snow and different things like that. So then that way, they're not trying to squeegee it out in the meantime or anything like that.
That was one of the concerns from staff right away is what happens when the snow melts? Where's the water gonna go, right? Because right now it's just a general warehouse. So,
Very flat.
yeah, very flat. So obviously slips, trips, falls, we don't want to deal with that. So in the plan, there is a spot where basically a chunk of the concrete would be cut out, trench drain, catch basin added, concrete slope down to it so that when the water does, or the snow does melt, the water kind of funnels back down and we don't have as many issues with slipping from the employee standpoint.
Yep, and then kind of to the northwest, we've got the maintenance area that will be utilized at this point. Ultimately, when the phase 2 comes, that will ultimately be relocated, but there was not an extensive amount of rework in that area. It was mainly just some electrical items, so nothing that's going to be a huge impact for the second phase or anything like that. And then, excuse me, and then kind of to the east, kind of centrally located are those restroom updates and renovations. And I'll just move to the next one here. There's a little blow-up view of those spaces. So providing for on the shop side, I'll say, or tenant 1 restroom. On the men's side, we have 2 toilet fixtures and 1 urinal and 2 sinks. And then on the women's side, we have 2 toilet fixtures and 2 sinks. As well as we converted a janitor's closet to be a shower room, just so when the guys come back from being out in the field, if they need to just rinse off before they head home, so they're not taking some of that stuff home with them, depending on what they get into. And then tenant 2, which would be the current tenant space or the future Public Works office space. Those we had, again, on the men's side, 2 toilets, 1 urinal. We only had a room to do 1 sink in there. And then on the women's, we were able to do 2 toilets and 2 sinks. Along with that is we have janitor's closets just for cleaning purposes inside that office space. And then I just kind of wanted to highlight, this is just a partial view of the roof showing the mechanical units that are being replaced. As I mentioned, kind of on the east side, low roof, those are the 3 rooftop units that are serving more of the current tenant space. Those will be updated. They're having some issues with them, so we went through and we got those updated, so that works better for them as well as serving the Public Works in the future as well. And then there was 4 smaller ones towards the east side on that main roof, and then 1 large one that serves the maintenance and the vehicle storage area. And then I'll get into this in a little bit, but we do have the sign shop as an alternate bid item as well for that addition infill area. That one did include a makeup air unit and exhaust, and then the heating is by unit heaters in that space. And then now jumping back out outside of the main building, we have the salt storage building. So we have approximately 5,000 square feet of salt storage, which translates into 2,000 ton of salt storage that we can store in here.
So right now, just before we move on, so just to give the public an idea, right now we take anywhere between 1,600 to 1,800 tons of salt each season is kind of our allotment that we have been taking. Now, obviously, we're looking into the future, 20, 30, 40 years from now. Obviously, we're going to continue to grow, hopefully. And so just want to be mindful of that into the future, of having enough space for whoever comes after me.
Yeah, Mike and the staff and everybody really sat down and looked at, what do we need, further down the road here, because this is the opportunity to do it at the best.
And we
cost.
can get early fill. It's not a cost savings, but early fill, we can get basically the shed full, and we can have it there for the entire season instead of having to worry about having enough salt when we have back-to-back snowfalls when we had in the past, and we got two truckfuls of salt left in the salt shed, and we got a storm coming. That's really nerve-wracking for me and the foreman. So this would take that stress off of both of us and would be much appreciated.
I have a quick question, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
go ahead.
Just because you're kind of doing this in chunks. As far as the, I'll call it air conditioning, but the HVAC, you're going to replace 8 units, I think it was?
Yes.
Is that all of them, or is that?
No, there are a couple more towards the south side of the building that would probably be due for replacement.
Those have been updated here recent. They're newer than the ones that are being replaced. So the previous owner did kind of do some updating, but
Okay.
the ones that are left are the originals. And
Gotcha.
so that's why those are being poised to, and that was in kind of the due diligence report when we first had Mark and Johnson do that for us.
Right. And efficiency wise, it's better
Oh.
just replace these things
Yeah.
rather than.
They were, and that's a conversation I was gonna actually maybe ask Ken when he gets up there, is like, when we bid this out, the numbers come back, and let's just say they come back high. I mean, what are things that we can, what does that process work as far as eliminating stuff from the project that would save us money? You don't have to answer that now, but maybe this is one thing that we look at, seeing that they do work, they're not efficient, they're originals. I mean, we've had to service them since we've taken it over. So it's just one of those things where when you're kind of doing some of the internal mechanicals, it
Right.
makes sense to maybe do some of
Yep.
those exterior ones that are original.
Yeah.
So we won't be making any changes to ductwork or any other HVAC issues?
There are a few ductwork changes that will happen inside the vehicle storage and maintenance areas.
For exhaust exchange.
Sure.
Yeah, for exhaust
You can
exchange
cover that.
and just
Sure.
making sure that the air is being spread out evenly
Safe
across
for
that space.
the workers, yeah.
Yep, absolutely,
But the vehicle storage isn't air conditioned, is it? Heated,
correct.
but is it air conditioned, cooled?
The new unit would not have any cooling
Okay.
capabilities in it. And I know some people see that as, where you're gonna have issues with moisture within the building. But we also do have some high-volume, low-speed fans that are very large and move the air, so then that way all that floor will get dried out and everything like that,
Okay.
so you don't have any of those concerns.
I mean, typically, vehicle storage areas are not air conditioned.
Right. Correct.
In these facilities.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not something that we need.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Yeah. So then, as part of the salt storage, just kind of jumping back to the salt storage, we have approximately 400 square feet of Class 5 rock storage as well as trap rock storage, so 2 separate storage areas for those. And then we have our brine room for the brine mixing and everything like that, which provides for storage tanks of the brine inside that space. And then we also took into account, if the Public Works ever had to start mixing their own or making their own brine, You know, that's not the intent right now, but we wanted to make sure that there's enough space for that as that could come up in the future. And then we've got about 1,000 square feet of cold storage, just for miscellaneous skid steer parts and different things like that. So just a kind of an overview of the salt storage. So we've got the large quantity of salt storage to that west side of the building being accessed from the south side, so then that way we don't have any issues with the business park covenants or anything like that, having any salt or anything like that being shown out that side of the north side of the building towards the street. Having access for the cold storage on that south east side, and then along the west side we have the class 5 rock and trap rock storage areas being accessed right off the east side, along with that brine room being accessed off the east side. So no real access on the north and west sides, just since those are facing the properties and the streets and stuff like that. And then kind of jumping back a little bit, I wanted to kind of keep this separate as we were looking at this as an alternate bid item. So, you know, as we were kind of working through the budget and everything, this was an item that we saw as an opportunity to help control some costs, and Ken here can kind of talk a little more elaborate about it. But essentially, this is an item that we feel that if it was not completed, the operation still could be done as they are now, or we could look at a space within this current space that they can be operating out of until the next phase comes, where we got a little bit more room to fit them in the current square footage. But that alternate bid item essentially gives 2,400 square feet of the sign shop area. Excuse me. This includes area for racking to store kind of the signage that they currently have, as well as a little office. We don't have an office space in there, but they would be open to the rest of the area where they could be operating out of, along with their workbenches. And then if they ever have a traffic signal or a light that they need to pull down and work on, they can literally take the whole pole down and then bring it into the shop, so they don't have to be working out in the weather, do all their work. Nice clean area, well controlled and everything, before they have to take it back out and set it up. So that just gives them that opportunity there. So then on the proposed sign shop, that would, you know, the racking we were looking at in the northeast corner of that space. And then having it where they can pull that trailer and truck in to work on the signal or anything like that they have in there. And then having space for their workbenches either on the east or west walls of that space. We did have to, just with grades and everything, it worked out where we lowered the finished floor of that, so we did have to add some stairs in there in order to get access into the main building. But that was a much less costly option versus we would have had to do retaining walls and things like that. That would be more of a maintenance down the road and everything, where these stairs are a little bit less intrusive and everything. So those were kind of the highlights of the design that I wanted to present to you guys. Before I turn it over to Ken, I don't know if you guys have any questions as far as design wise. All right, I will turn it over to Ken to talk
But I
about
ask, I do have one question. I
yes.
just wanted to give, and I might need our Public Works Director to chime in about the sign shop and, you know, what all goes on in there. I mean, I am in favor right now, without even seeing the numbers, of having it on the facility. I think it's good to have our goal was to be all in one location.
Right.
But what is the option and why
Right.
are we balancing that?
Yep, so that shop area, the primary use of that, it's not so much signs like stop signs, street blades, yield signs. That's gonna be up in the mezzanine. This area is gonna be used primarily for traffic signal repair, street light repair, and also like traffic controller programming. So all the stainless steel boxes you see on all our corners where traffic signals are, we actually have a mock setup in our current west garage where our employees can go in there and download different programming based on timings and schedules. And they basically practice there, and then they take it out in the field and they download that computer chip into the controller units. So it's actually pretty high tech. It's amazing what our staff can do. But that would be an area for them to have various stations where they can download those programs, practice them. You know, new controllers, they're all, just like computers and phones. Systems are always updating. You know, they're always changing. Softwares are always changing, right? And so we're always having to like keep up with the latest and greatest for our systems to work, right? And so that's an area where they can have all their equipment, all of their parts, all of their, you know, breakaways and light heads and, you know, deflectors and you name it up on racks, so that if something does happen, traffic signal gets hit in the middle of the night, they can pull it in, they can go in there, wire it up and have it back up in a day or two, you know. So that's kind of the area and the thought. And like you said, it is the reason why I want that addition as part of this is to have that centrally located and have our employees in one building, because right now they're in the west shop. If you recall, it's kind of that middle bay. There's like the bucket truck and like on the back half in the dingy area. He's kind of set up. So just to bring him up instead of having him, because that's, you know, our employee that does that right now, that's primarily his main focus is traffic signal, street lighting, locating, and traffic, street signs. So it would be very, not that, you know, it'd be very hard to just have everybody move up to the facility, but you guys stay in the west shop and keep working out of the old bus garage type of thing, you know. And so, and when we do sell that property, we got to have a space for him to go and for that equipment to go. And so this makes sense.
So, and is the shop adequate right now, or they're kind of limping along, doing a great job considering, but it needs upgrading anyway?
Up at the new one?
At the current.
At the current
west,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, the current one is obviously, there's not a working restroom there, so they have to go over to the east shop, limited on storage space. And so right now, like half the equipment is up in Cratley, like some of the boneyard where we have traffic signals and street lights up there. And so if something happens, he's got to run up there and bring it back to this shop, make the repair, and then he brings it back out to the field. So it's just kind of scattered all over right now.
Thank you.
Making do.
Thanks for explaining that more and how it's currently being handled. So as it is, since we still have a tenant in this building
Yes.
that we are getting a significant amount of rent from.
Yes.
And they do have a lease that we're honoring. There's not, you need the rest of the footprint for all the trucks, et cetera. There's just not room for it
Correct.
inside there.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, correct.
So that's why this sort of filling in that narrow
Yeah.
channel. Okay,
Yep.
thank you for explaining that. Anyone have any comments about that? We'll discuss it more when it comes to dollars,
Yeah.
cents at the bottom line. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Chris.
Let's get this advanced for Ken here.
All right, before you start talking, I'll pass these out.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, got it.
Pass it down the mic. This will
You get the good one.
as well.
Yes. Which one can I see?
I'll hold it when you
Yeah.
hold yours up.
Yeah, right?
What's up on the screen?
All right, good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm Ken Francis with Krause Anderson Construction, and we are your construction managers. So I got the pleasure to present both budget and schedule to you guys tonight. Just a quick high level on the budget. So we do have two columns there. One is our concept estimate that we did back in August, testing the budget. And then we call it the CD estimate right next to it. So that is a current estimate based on the current plans. And then we do show the comparison between the two, so we always track, where we were before to where we're at now. And you can see the different components in the construction. Can you guys see the mouse? You can't.
No.
No.
Okay. But we do compare the different components of construction, whether it's the site, the fuel island, the salt shed, or the renovations, to where we thought they were back at the preliminary pricing and concepts. So you'll see there's some slight fluctuations between the two, but we also had a design contingency back in the concept estimate, that as the design progresses, some of that gets used up for the design enhancement of the project. So if you look at the construction subtotal cost, about 2/3 the way down in pink, you'll see we thought we'd be about that 4.416 million in our concept estimate in August, and currently right now we're tracking about that 4.5 million. So it's relatively close.
Is that just based on industry trend, bidding from other projects that you're seeing in the field right now? Is that kind of why there is a discrepancy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do go through the plans, we do detailed takeoffs. We got 17 pages of the actual estimate that goes into all that detail. And then we use both input from current bidders and marketplace, also unit prices on exact concrete and steel and wood, and apply that specifically to your project to come up with this estimate.
Okay.
And then you do see, we do have the soft costs, so that would be design fees, permits, inspections, testing, things like that, to really give you guys a picture of not just what the construction costs, but what's the total project cost of the whole project. So currently at the top, we show a revenue for this project of about 5.3 million. We're showing a total project cost about the 4.86 million. So that leaves about the 439,000 remaining. You will see it does not currently include the sign shop alternate. Right now, you'll see it on the notes up in the construction that we're currently budgeting that to be up to 460,000. So not quite the same amount of what the project's under budget, but close enough that I think we got a fighting chance on bid day.
Okay. So then can you speak to, and this is more for my information as well, bidding this large of a project. So talk us through bidding. So bid day comes, you open up all of the different categories, and let's just say we're over. Do we have a chance at that point in time to alter the project scope, or how does that work from our end to make sure that we, have those conversations, whether, we need to make some modifications to the project?
Yeah, great question, Mike.
We didn't prepare this.
This is very candid, but it's kind of playing.
No,
right.
we didn't talk about this at 1:00 this afternoon.
Yeah, this is playing right along though. So ultimately, this is a good point too, where we talk about what are some bid day alternates that we want to have in, so that on bid day we do have flexibility, both adds and deducts. So currently, right now, we do have like the sign shop as an add alternate. I know you mentioned maybe some of the rooftop units on the tenant side, that maybe we make that also an alternate. So on bid day, there is flexibility and you see exactly what it all costs on bid day. And then you can accept the alternates as you see fit.
Okay, when do we have to make those decisions?
For alternates, or when to accept?
So for like the rooftop units, do I need to just tell you like on bid day, like those are alternates, or do I have to like, how does that work?
Yeah, we would do that ahead of time prior to bidding,
Okay.
and we'd identify them in the bidding document, so everybody's bidding the alternates correctly.
Okay.
And then.
Do you think we need to do that at this point, or based on the numbers that we're seeing, or just kind of roll the dice and see what we get on, seeing that we're fairly close with our budget?
My advice would be is I'd plan for a little bit both ways. So if we think that the mechanical units may be an option on the table, I'd bid them as an alternate. That way you see exactly what they are and you still have that flexibility on bid day. That way, again, you plan for both the high and the low. How do you maximize your budget both ways on bid day?
Because the rooftop units are around 200,000.
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
And there are ways to value engineer projects after bidding, but those become a lot more complicated, and with bid laws and things like that, start to get a little more into the weeds on that. So my advice would be is whatever we think we want for alternates, that we plan accordingly for bid day. And that gives you the most flexibility on bid day.
What do you think?
It does make sense. I mean, I don't know, how old is the building?
90,
We're looking at 25-year-old. The HVAC
yeah.
Yeah,
units are
plus.
so right. They have had a full life, but of course, I don't know, what do the other members of the council feel, our committee, about whether we would separate out and have, I mean, I don't see any harm in it.
Well, that was my question, is what's the downside?
There really
Other than a
isn't.
little more work for you guys.
Yeah, there really isn't. Usually we always say there is kind of a max threshold of how many alternates
Sure.
before they start to be cumbersome to bidders, but usually that's, in that 6 to 8 range of alternates. So having 3, 4 alternates, I'd see no downside to that.
Yeah, and I think it's a what do I want to say? It's a nice package of stuff. It's not, we're modifying some wiring in part of the building. This is,
Right.
yes or no, check the box type thing. So, yeah, I would think that that's probably a decent enough,
It could stand
because we
alone.
kind of have them, like you said, they're not the most efficient, and you never know when we're going to be.
It's like your
probably back
home,
up
right?
to-
It's like a 30-year home. you
Right,
know,
we
you're
get another
always-
summer out of it, right.
Yeah. Yeah, you're always like, oh, we can get another summer or 2 out of these right before
Yeah.
they have to be, it's the same thing here, right?
Yeah. But again, if we can do it à la carte, that's probably gonna help us move this thing down the road, rather than just a complete roadblock and all of a sudden the numbers are red lights.
Yeah.
It gives some flexibility.
Yeah,
Right.
flexibility, yeah.
Because, again, for the benefit of anyone that might be watching this discussion and seeing some detailed numbers, these are a highly educated estimate, guess, if you will, of what it might cost us. But we do not have official bids from any contractors yet that would provide this work. So we're trying to, since we're coming down to a few months away, making our, evaluating the numbers as closely as we can. So I think it does give us some flexibility if something that we really need or is integral to the project is higher, that we could keep things rolling and hold back on those replacement units. And again, it doesn't hurt.
Is
to have it separated.
the exhaust exchange unit in that package?
So that was one thing I wanted to make sure that you guys.
Because that's you have to
There's gonna be
have.
some units that we're going to have to upgrade.
That makes sense, yeah.
For
So,
the space.
yes, if you could specify that and detail that out so that the people who are bidding, if that's not too cumbersome for you.
Yeah,
I understand that. We certainly, health and well-being of the staff and so on, the air quality is
Yeah.
obviously critical.
yeah, absolutely. And that 200,000 is really what we're estimating as just the tenant side replacements.
Okay.
So the ones we know we gotta do, like Chris was mentioning, for the exhaust and the air exchanges for the actual vehicle storage side, that's not in that 200,000. That is in our estimate already.
Okay.
So
thank
when I do
you.
say tenant, that was the intent, is just the tenant side
Okay.
replacement.
Thanks for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have any comments, Councilmember Burke?
I'm comfortable with that. I have a sense you're going to tell us what bid day looks like then, so the bids come in, and then kind of what's the next step after that?
Yeah, great question. So we do get bids. We'll break it down just like you normally would. All the concrete trades would bid to it, mechanical trades, electrical. We'll put together a bid tab where we actually compare everybody's bids to their scopes, making sure everybody has the right scope, the same scope, and then you can see what that price is by all the bidders. And then we'll probably have somewhere between 20 of those different bid tabs representing all the different trades that will be on the project. We'll sit down with Mike and Chris, go through that, making sure that they are accurate and legitimate bids. And then at that point, we'd assemble what we'd call a guaranteed maximum price package with all the construction and bring that forward to you guys as consideration and hopefully approval.
Thank you.
All right. So then, moving on to schedule. So right now, you will see a schedule, which is the police and the public works schedule. I summarized some of the police, since we're talking just public works today. But ultimately, the reason why we did this is, so Cross Anderson, our contract is for the police and public works combined. So when we proposed on this project, we offered an option that if we did these construction together, there was actually a savings to the city for that, utilizing some of our staff on both sites. So that's what the schedule currently represents, but you will see there is an alternate if we do want to break that off and bid that earlier, the public works from the police. It just also comes with some other nuances. But currently, the way we are planning is the police side is slightly behind where the public works side is in their design. So they'd be ready to bid probably the end of February, early March, which then we'd be coming forward with you guys with those bid results near the end of April for approvals. And then construction would start somewhere in July, with completion kind of around that year end, January-ish.
If we were to separate and do the public works bid first, is there a bidding the public works and the PD together, is that better from a bidder standpoint? Do you get better numbers, bigger project, or is it beneficial? I mean, talk us through that.
Yeah, great question, Mike. Historically, you would see that if you have a larger package, more work, you may get volume discounts from bidders. Kind of like what you saw with KA, right? If you do these at the same time, we can utilize some efficiencies on site and you actually realize some savings for that. It may attract some more bidders, being a more attractive package or a little larger. So again, depending on bid day, you never know what bid day happens, but it would be a larger package, hopefully more attractive to more bidders.
Yeah, I just know based on our conversations we've had over the last couple of weeks, obviously the market right now is very hungry from what I understand.
Yep.
A lot of companies, a lot of contractors are looking for work. It'd behoove us to take advantage of that climate. So I don't know if waiting until late February, March, is that gonna hurt us, or do we need to try to jump at this? The thing is by the time we bring this to council, it's gonna be January anyways.
So we aren't going to discuss it next week?
I didn't have it, no, based on our conversation here tonight,
Okay.
because the agenda's going out like tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
So, I can maybe talk to Brent and Becky to see if we can't squeeze it on there. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
So if we went with the alternate option and bid separately, what would you see as the timetable?
Yeah, so, like you say, I think in January, we get approval to go out to bid. We'd probably be out on the street just shortly after. And then there's about a 1-month bid window where contractors put their numbers together. And then there's a week or 2 week after that to validate, confirm all the bidders and scopes are correct. So
So we
it'd
just
probably be sometime in, late February, early March, that would be.
we basically be like 6 to 8 weeks ahead
Yeah.
of PD.
Yeah, that's about right, about 2 months, give or take.
I mean, construction wouldn't start
That's correct. We would
construction would still start at the same time. It's just we would bid ours earlier.
Correct.
Okay.
Would, quick question.
Yeah.
Would you then risk having two separate contractors, and then that's during construction gonna be a hassle versus just working with one?
Yeah, that's another great question. And yes, that is one of those things where if you split the packages up and bid them separate, you could have 2 mechanical guys and 2 electricians and things like that we would manage. And we certainly can. We do that all the time. But from a city standpoint, sometimes it's nicer when you got a mechanical guy that knows both your buildings that you can call quickly, or an electrician, or things like that, so.
I have a question. Just how many years have you been doing this? And that, I'm just because I'm trying to gauge like how many years have you been doing this?
Great question. So it'll be 17 in January.
Okay, so in your 17 years, you've seen a lot with the economy, all sorts of things. In your experience, is there much difference 8-week window from what a bid might look like?
Generally, my experience is not necessarily the timing, but how attractive your project is. One example being, we do a lot of school work. So right now, there's a lot of school renovations going on that are being bid out for summer work. So you want to be on the first end of that because school's out only for a short period of time, and the later you bid, the less bidders you have. On other projects where you have flexibility on, are you gonna have to be done August 15th, guaranteed every time? Those are more attractive projects to more bidders and less sensitive to timing of bids. So the other piece to the alternate bid option. So like I mentioned, currently our contract is to do both together. So we could look at splitting them up and we could do 2 contracts, one for just the PD and then one for the PW. And then we still do the construction at the same time. Or the other option would be is, since right now the dollar value of our contract is not set, when the project bids out Public Works, we'd set our contract dollar value. And then when the police bids out later, then we'd do a change order to incorporate the police into that contract. However, it would be, our base contract would be 4.5 million, and then the police change order would be about 9 million. And sometimes those optics don't always look the greatest from outside sources, that you have a change order being that large.
You would call that a change order?
I mean,
That's a big one.
you're right, and that's part of, again,
Right. No, I understand, and I do respect that, that you did enter into an agreement with the city of Hudson based on that we would do them together. I appreciate that, and I really appreciate your flexibility, both of you. I mean, we've had Cedar Corporation in these four walls, this chamber, a number of times, you know, with these ideas and consulting in the past. So we really appreciate your flexibility and understanding that we're trying to get the most out of our dollars and, you know, really help our staff to have good facilities to work in, good working environment, but also watch out for our taxpayers here in the city. So I appreciate your flexibility and even considering it and talking with us about it. Because, right, if we thought, wow, we're gonna save so much money, let's get out and get those bids. Now, if people are hungry in January, they're thinking, yeah, I need to line up some work for the year. Would we save enough that even if we ended up paying your company, Kraus Anderson, more as the management, you know, would the city still come out okay on that? You know, maybe there wouldn't be that much savings to make the difference. The amount we'd pay you more to handle it separately might outweigh that.
yeah, and I guess just to be clear, we would not be asking for more as long as construction was at the same time.
Construction.
If construction split, then we'd have
Different story.
a different story.
Thank you, again, for clarifying that. That's
Yeah.
helpful. So, well, our group here tonight, I mean, you are asking us to discuss in forward. I don't want to cut you off if you
Yeah.
have more, Ken, but of course, the full council.
Yeah.
We're going to need our finance director to look hard at this and city administrator,
Yeah.
the mayor, to give us input, but it's a good discussion. Other comments on that, or do you have more for us, Ken?
I do not.
Okay,
Thank you, by the way.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, further discussion? Do you have comments for us?
No, I guess, what's your, obviously looking tonight just for general approval and forward on to council for review. But I do want to, with maybe adding the alternate for the rooftop units, just to give us some flexibility on. But just your general consensus, do we want to try to take advantage of the marketplace and get this bid out as soon as possible? Or do we want to do it on the PD's timeline, which is kind of late February, early March? Do you think I think based on what I'm hearing, it might not make a big difference. It might be a little bit of a disadvantage, seeing that maybe it's a smaller project. But yet there's a flip side where it is an advantageous bidding market right now for construction. So I don't know, it's kind of a catch-22.
Right, and I guess our job is to lay out the pros and cons to both. And Mike, I'm not sure how quickly you need that decision, but
Yeah.
if this doesn't go till January anyway, there is still a little time, I guess, for some dialogue internally on, are we going now or going on PD, so.
Well, I'm a big believer in if we figure out a way to do a program like we did and kind of do them together, a lot of times those last minute, let's change it and try to take advantage of a little savings over here, that's usually when you get into trouble. So in my brain, this is kind of the path we've chosen, and let's not jump too far. I guess the one question to keep that my thought process in line is both of these projects are very similar. The mechanicals are similar in the electric. As a package, we're not going to find a decent vendor that say, oh, I'd love to do the public works, but that police thing, I don't have the right equipment, or vice versa. I mean, these are both pretty straightforward. Someone
Yes.
bidding on one is going to bid on both. I guess, is that
Correct, yep.
fair to think?
Very
Okay.
similar systems
All right.
between both, so.
And you, right now, you're going to be the construction manager for the whole package both. Because I personally have not heard as much discussion about the police department project, and I know they're working with a different architectural design firm. So I didn't know what their timetable was, that it was going to be ready in a couple months. I thought it was a longer, like next summer. So it is encouraging to hear that they're close
Yeah.
with that project. I also would like to ask our members here tonight if you are interested in taking a vote on the concept of the sign shop, or are you comfortable with it just being listed as a separate bid? I mean, ultimately, when those bids are official and people are willing to do the work for this, the contractors, then council has to vote to accept that.
Correct.
And so then the council as a whole would say, no, we're not doing the sign shop, or yes, we are.
Right.
So our decision today doesn't weigh greatly on it. We'd still move forward, but if anyone has comments or you want to make a motion in any way here?
I'm comfortable having it be part of the alternate bid. Because if I'm understanding you correctly, you were thinking you'd like to just see it included in the bid and not pulled out as an
No,
alternate?
I think it's a good idea to have it as an alternate. I
I'm-
just was voicing my opinion that
Yeah.
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
That we should do it.
I'm comfortable having it be the alternate as well as the rooftop units, having those both be alternates.
Okay?
No, I agree with that. I mean, again, if we can kind of do it à la carte and see where we land. I'm a big believer in we're doing this to get everything on the same campus. And to do again, shortcut or change the plans at the last minute, that now you got a guy with the one wrench he needs back at the other shop. That's the main reason we're doing this. Updating facilities, safer, more efficient, we hope, and also providing kind of the 20th century, 21st century, going from the 19th century where you guys are now, facilities. So to kind of hang on to that, the 1960s bus shop or whatever, and let's keep using that. I don't want, that's not where we should go with that. So, yeah, I like having them as two different bids, or excuse me, as two different alternates, thanks, to take a look and see where they come back.
I would just and I know I've mentioned it in the past, when we are getting down talking about money, it would be really helpful for me, and I don't know if it's because it can't be public, I'm not thinking that's the case, but I'd really like to know what those other two properties might be worth that we're gonna be selling, because I think that's important to have some kind of ballpark.
Yeah, we do have that information.
Okay.
Staff
And-
does,
Okay,
yeah.
A recent appraisal.
A recent,
Okay.
appraisal.
okay.
The west and east garage, we're gonna have to have new nicknames for
I know, yeah.
this be Public Works Department. Okay, thank you.
But maybe when we accept the bids, I can have that as some information when it comes to council after bid day, say, here's the bid, this is by the way, here's what we have, our estimate as far as what the value of those properties
Sure.
are to help with some of
Because,
those conversations.
like you said, we would have to vacate the west garage of the sign shop
Right.
in order to market it if we choose to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're working towards a motion there, correct? Were you or not? I mean, that we,
So have we come to terms? The only other thing that I think I'm not clear on, are we thinking that we're going to wait and do this with the police department? Or are you one?
that's the next item. If we want, I mean, we don't have to have a final decision, but it would be nice if we came to at least a tentative decision, pass it on to the council.
Correct. Yeah, you can make, do you want me to try and get it on next Monday's council meeting? If possible? Do you want to talk about that soon? I mean, nothing's really going to change between now and January.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I think it would be great if we could.
Okay, if I can somehow, I should be able to, right? I don't think you gentlemen will need to come back for that. I can take care of the majority of the presentation. Maybe, Chris, if I could just get this PowerPoint and I could buzz through it.
I mean, it gives the council a chance to start absorbing it, and if they put off a final decision till January, at
Right.
least they've had some time to think it
Digest
through.
it, yeah.
Call for more questions, present questions,
Yeah.
and it's presented to the public also. I mean, we're in front of the public tonight too, but,
Well,
yeah.
I even think just kind of a point that you've made in the past, Councilmember Knudsen, is having kind of that first reading and giving people time to think on it. It might be a lot
Oh, yeah.
to take a vote on that,
Sure.
on that
Right.
next Monday.
But to discuss that.
But to
Would you be in
discuss it
favor of
and, yeah,
If we could
have it-
have it on the agenda for
Yeah.
at least discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Start getting the input.
Okay. That's fine.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ken.
you for
Thanks,
being
Ken.
here, Ken and Chris. Thank you so much. Do you want to move forward with a motion, do you think, tonight, or should we just have it put on the,
I would motion to approve plans as discussed and move forward to council for review.
okay?
Move to approve the plans forward to common council to consider authorization for a future bid.
A second.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion of first and second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks so much for your
Thank you.
time being here, and all your flexibility and the hard work. Appreciate it. Go ahead. Okay, next item on our agenda is, we're going to discuss the O'Neill Road improvements that are slated for next summer. So discussion, possible action on those improvements, and city engineer will take this item.
Yeah, so this item, we just recently approved the O'Neill Road improvements from Hanley to Tower, basically the business park, reconstructing the road based on the poor condition. And so, as we started thinking about the project, and also being out there surveying, some possible developments to the south, you know, people were asking, should we add some sort of bike ped facility? We actually, when we were out there, we've seen walkers and bikers both. Some what seems like maybe people from the business park, like walking around and they walk on the road. We've seen a stroller being pushed on the curb line with giant trucks going by. And definitely like kind of, you know, general recreation bikers or just leisure bikers. So it has been a wide variety, I would say. And in the future, you know, part of Hudson, we may grow to the south of Tower Road, and currently there is kind of a proposed residential development in the works. And so we're kind of gonna have the city of Hudson limits, you know, all these amenities like White Camp Park, and then we're gonna have the industrial park, and then to the south of that, a residential neighborhood. So it's kind of like, do we think about the future and connecting those people kind of through the park, eventually maybe connecting our trail system. And so we looked at a lot of options to provide bike and pedestrian accommodations. And so there was no specific recommendations for O'Neill Road in the city's bike and ped master plan. So we kind of just started from scratch, like what are the options? And the most feasible option within the budget that we've already approved would be an 8-foot wide trail on one side of the road. And this would be keeping the curb lines in the same location. So as far as like vehicle travel, it'll feel exactly the same. We'll just be adding a trail off to the side on one side. And we looked at which side would be most appropriate, and the east side is kind of jumping out as a little more feasible as far as, I think there's a few less driveways, so a few less conflict points, there's less utilities. All the fire hydrants and light poles are on the other side of the road, so that's kind of what's driving which side of the road it would go on. And would connect basically from Tower Road to the trail system along Hanley. And so our alternatives laid out are kind of the do-nothing alternative, I like to call it, which is just replace what's there. Or alternative 2 is to add the 8-foot wide trail. We would get the minimum boulevard width kind of recommended by design standards, so that would be good. And the recommended action is to just approve that second alternative and forward to council for discussion. Kind of have a similar discussion to see if everyone's on board before putting the work to add it to the plan sheets. So we'd kind of go to council just to make sure everyone's on the same page and then kind of work on adding it to the plans, if that's the route we want to go.
Thank you. Appreciate you bringing this idea forward. And am I right that your staff, you and Maverick, are doing the engineering?
Yes, yes.
So far,
Yep.
all's well. You're
Yep.
not running into any issues that you guys don't have the time or energy to do, so.
No, not right. Yeah, we kind of got ahead of the surveying, like that's pretty much all done. So we feel like we're in a good spot with that. And
Helpful that we selected that
It's-
earlier in the year.
yes,
It's,
exactly.
Coming together.
Especially with
Great.
weather, yeah.
That's a great savings to the city. I'm always amazed what outside engineering firms cost.
Yeah.
It's expensive, so that's really great. And you feel like this addition would be within our budget?
Yes, we do think so.
Okay.
We could choose, speaking of bid alternates, we could add it as a bid alternate just in case. But I guess with our initial estimates and, we factored in contingencies, we feel like it'll work, but
Sure.
we'll know more a little closer to final design, but.
Yeah. Okay, what other comments?
I have two questions, if I could. So with it being 8 feet, that doesn't really make it a trail, so that's the responsibility of whoever owns that property to maintain that? Or to
Well,
do
we had
snow
those
shoveling?
discussions, and it's a discussion that we should probably have in the future, eventually, about trails, as we continue to put
Yes.
more and more trails in. Does it come at a point in time where the city takes over maintaining those trails throughout the city?
Right.
Plowing snow? Just because as we continue to add miles and miles of trails, it just becomes burdensome and to the property owners. So to answer your question, I would be open to maintaining this 8-foot wide asphalt
Okay.
trail.
Because normally 10-foot wide was the
A 10 or 12?
10.
the really big,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up,
Yeah.
because I did wonder about that.
Yeah, I
snow
do
removal.
think, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Crestview, the trail along Crestview, that's only 8 feet wide, and I believe the adjacent property owners do take care of those.
Yes.
So I think we have like both situations in the city right
Right.
now.
And that's why I don't want to get into a situation where we're
Yes.
doing this trail over here, but we won't do that one, we'll do this one, but we won't, it's like, it's kind of an all or nothing thing, so,
I agree.
yeah,
I do think you're right. It's either all or nothing,
Yeah.
just to have it be equitable.
right.
That policy should probably, maybe sometime this winter, we'll discuss
Yes,
that.
I think that would be
cost of it,
appropriate.
'cause
And
certainly-
yep, the cost, we'd have to, well, Maverick volunteered to maybe help out plow some snow over the winter, so I already have an employee.
There you go, there you go. Okay,
Okay, so that was one question. My other one is, if this falls within the budget, does that mean we aren't counting $50,000 of it towards the trail and,
Yes,
Money,
correct. So
okay.
that is still separate. Yeah, I really think we need to have those funds to keep updated
Okay.
with existing maintenance. So, yep, the 50,000 for sidewalks and 50,000 for trail maintenance is still separate. Yeah, we didn't lump that together this time.
and the graphic was really cool.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah, it's a pretty cool program. I mean, anyone can go on it and just mix and match some roadway sections, so.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
is there a minimum boulevard curb and then boulevard before the trail? You had
Yeah.
mentioned the 5 feet. Is there a state law or anything about traffic code?
I don't think it's a law, it's just kind of recommendations. And Wisconsin, they have their own bike manual and they basically say 5 feet from the face of curb is the recommended minimum.
Okay.
So,
So we're gonna meet that.
yes,
Okay. But that's enough separation for that.
Yeah.
Safety of being away from the street.
yep.
No, I like it. I like our mantra has been that, just adding a white stripe on the side of a busy road does not say, there, we're pedestrian friendly now. So this is all, to me, it's almost we don't do anything, like you said, or this is the next step. So, yeah, I'm all for it.
I'm not.
Yes, if we don't make that effort, when we can, if there's space, if we have the right of way, and if we can handle the budget, we need to stick after that goal, stick to our plan. Otherwise, people will look back in decades and say, I wonder why they didn't put that in there.
Yeah.
So try to change that trend.
I have a
Okay,
quick
yes,
additional
please.
question. Sorry, this is sort of an add-on. We learned a term that I had not really heard before of the asphalt that we're going to put in at Public Works is going to be heavy duty. Because of the heavyweight trucks and the turns and whatever. And obviously O'Neill, if that were a little neighborhood street, it'd probably be in great shape. But as we know, it's not even there anymore. It's so broken down. Is that being factored in, not in this discussion, I know, but overall project, is that?
Yeah, yes,
We looked
yes. Ideally, I would love to do concrete.
Right.
That's probably not feasible. We are considering maybe adding it as an alternate to see
Okay.
what kind of prices we get for concrete, like interstates, concrete, it is nice for heavy truck traffic areas, but we are accounting for the amount of trucks. We've put our speed radar out actually, and it tells us the volume, and then also like small, medium, or large vehicles, and
Oh.
we can factor that into the pavement design. So it is a beefier pavement design, like maybe, a residential road might have 4 inches of bituminous. This is gonna probably have at least 6.
Okay.
So we'll beef up the pavement section. And you can choose kind of like different oils and aggregate sizes and stuff with the design. When he said heavy-duty pavement, he might have just been referring to the thickness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like really thick.
But there is LT, MT, H.
Yes,
HT.
there are like different
Not all
mixes.
asphalt is the same.
Yes, that is.
I would have thought there was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Stick around, learn something new every day.
Yeah.
yep,
Well, that makes sense. Thanks.
yes.
Move to approve alternative 2 and forward to our council.
Second.
Okay, motion and second that we accept the second proposal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Same sign, we're all approved, thank you. Okay, and then we have another item under new business. Discussion, possible action on request for proposals for Locust Street preliminary design services.
Yeah, so this one is mine as well. We've had a few discussions about, what are we gonna do in the future after 2025 and 2026? And right now, Locust Street downtown from First to Third is in our approved 2023 to 2027 CIP. And so, because it's it's not just a simple local residential road that you're just gonna go in and do the same thing as the existing conditions, and it's in our downtown. I'm really trying to think forward to the design process and schedules. And so with our kind of 2025, 2026 CIP planning, I did slate in some money for Locust Street, like preliminary design. And so we put together an RFP to get that process started. And this would just focus on really very kind of conceptual preliminary design and then also public engagement. So I feel like it's really important in a downtown to have that public engagement, engage with the business owners early on, see if there's, what the priorities are, what's maybe missing, what could we do better, and then we kind of use that to inform a preliminary design, and from that, we can really just focus our final design efforts on moving forward with that versus, final design rolls around and we're not exactly sure what we should do, and, I think we'd be doing like Hudson a disservice not getting all that engagement and all that done kind of beforehand. So, hopefully it would kind of serve as like, you know, any urban design kind of streetscape elements could serve as a template moving forward for like the whole downtown type of thing. So I, you know, really think it's an important project to really set the stage kind of for the future. So yeah, I attached it, so just kind of seeing if anyone has comments. If you, whatever comments you may have, recommending we kind of go to Plan Commission also for review, since this really is kind of more of, you know, since it has the public engagement aspect, it's a little bit more of a planning and engineering type phase of the project. So I think to get them involved would be important. And I mentioned an ad hoc committee. I guess I'm not familiar with creating one of those, but I would assume we kind of have a variety of people on like a separate committee to just kind of be in charge of like Locust Street items. So, yeah. Any questions or comments?
So the RFP will go out to consultants, we'll post it on our website if approved, but then basically the consultants will give us numbers to review, which at that time the council, finance and council would take a look at and say yes or no based on the numbers that we get back.
Do we want to spend
Yeah,
this money?
do we want to spend this money to
Sure.
move forward with this
So
part of the
this-
project?
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate, it's quite in-depth, and I appreciate that and your vision for really, you know, making that street come to life in a different way. We're not just repaving it,
Yeah,
is what you're
yeah.
thinking, so I like that creative approach. I also certainly a good point about the Plan Commission, so what you're saying is that they would, the report that comes back would be evaluated by Plan Commission as well as the various other committees.
Yeah, I think like for now, yeah, just this, so this is just what we would send out to the consultants to get their proposals with the cost of how much they would charge to do this service. So I would think right now, I just want to make sure they're on board with the idea of doing this. They might not have any, you know,
So are you
any
going
other
to present
thoughts.
this, will this be on the Plan Commission's
Yeah, I think we
agenda?
just put this kind of exact same
Sure.
thing,
That
just
way in
very
there,
preliminary.
Heads up for them, and they'll want to participate, hopefully.
Right,
In some
and
of
then-
those sessions.
Yes, yeah,
For input
exactly.
or be watching for how the public's responding.
Yes.
Makes sense?
I thought it was really thorough, and so I'm very appreciative. I want you to know, I looked right away, I'm like, what's the engagement? So I was
Oh,
very
yes.
happy about the engagement that you had.
Yep.
One of the things, with that public engagement, I know we'd probably post it and those types of things, but that is so close to residential too, so I just really want to make sure that we include at least
Yep.
those next 2 blocks of residents that are in that area, so that they at least are really aware that those meetings are happening.
Yes.
So I like the idea of the ad hoc committee. Personally, I think that's where we're gonna find out where are the big kind of sticking points, what we need to work through, and those types of things. So much better to do it early on than after the fact.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of this, and I really appreciate the attention to detail on this, because this really feels like it's putting the business owners and the residents as a top priority.
Agreed.
You looking for a motion?
Yeah, I think just, yeah, if you guys don't have any specific comments, just kind of motion to, I don't, you know,
Move it to the next.
yeah,
So moved.
Second?
okay.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second that this go forward for the next steps for approval for sending out RFP. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your work, and that will move forward to council and plan commission. All right, now back to some old business, which is also discussing trail improvements, bike and pedestrian access. And under old business, we're discussing Carmichael Road trail improvements from Deer Haven Drive north to Sophia Lane.
Yeah, so this one is mine as well. So we had a little bit of discussion on this specifically. In general, the last Public Works Committee meeting, we talked about Carmichael in general, from Cooley to Vine, just as far as like widening plans and kind of what we've done, trying to get grant applications and things. So there wasn't any specific action. It was just kind of asked that we continue the conversation about some sort of bike ped accommodations along the rural section between Deer Haven and Sophia. So if you can imagine, it's like a 2-lane rural road, so no curb and gutter or anything. And so you will see, people maybe walking or biking just on a very narrow shoulder with, fairly fast and very frequent cars. So we evaluated different options. We kind of looked at the cost estimate again, and, we went out there and really just like walked it just to kind of see how it could feel or what could work within kind of the road right of way. And so we came up with the option of doing like a 8-foot multi-use trail, completely separated for the most part from the roadway. There's a few sections that either have curb and gutter where the trail would just go right behind the curb and gutter, and one section where I'm proposing we add it just based on the existing grades. But the separated trail, it is technically what's in the bike ped plan, and I think is the best, safest option to accommodate bicyclists and pedestrians. So I know there was, a speaker at the last one really talking about maybe you could do something on the shoulder with, some sort of delineator kind of barriers, things like that. That really is focused more for bikers. And so actually, and I didn't even know this, but Wisconsin state statute does not define roadway shoulders as legal sidewalks. So technically we couldn't say it's a pedestrian access route if we just did like a wider shoulder. And so when we were out there, there was, at least one person walking, maybe two.
Yep.
Now I keep my eyes, a little, it's like you do notice people walking actually. And so I really don't want to do an option that's not going to accommodate both. And so also just widening a shoulder like on one side doesn't work well for like two-way bike traffic. Then you have bikers like going opposite direction of drivers, and that's just not really like also recommended. So the cost estimate would, we sharpened our pencils. We think it should be about $325,000. That's with engineering and construction. And so, this issue sheet is really to just, be advanced looking into it. We're not really sure timing of when widening would occur. I'm not sure if we really want to use this as a section to do grants. Like, I really feel like we should.
I was just thinking about that. It might be a
but
good project where we could apply
could.
for like a TAP grant or transportation alternative.
Yeah,
grant.
so we could definitely look at that,
Because right now with the budget, obviously we don't have anything in the CIP over the next 2 years to accommodate $325,000 improvement, right? So even if we were to move forward with this project, it would have to be shuffled with all the other stuff we've been talking about, but it wouldn't be until 2027 and 2028, unless you do a special bond run or take it out of, there's other ways to pay for it. But maybe applying for a grant we could try to do that first and foremost. If you think this is, a priority for the city, this is staff time, spend time on it, so on and so forth.
What's the TAP grant kind of cycle? Like, when's the next one up and how quickly do you hear? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't remember
I don't know
that
off the top of my head.
I can't remember if that's an every other year. Yeah, I was gonna say, Mike, even with a grant, that could delay the project. but,
Exactly, that's true too.
I feel like I could try to reach out to the county. A connection here is in technically the St. Croix County like bike ped plan. They don't have any plans to do anything here. I did ask that. But I feel like if it advances kind of their overall goals, it feels like maybe if they could cost participate, that would be nice, since it would be advancing the city and county goals. So I don't know what that really looks like, but.
And when you use the phrase, and I heard our Public Works Director, Mike, say that another time, also the phrase about a rural cross-section. So that's just because that was a road that wasn't in the city, never
Yes.
had those improvements.
Yes.
So that section that's not part of the city.
Yes, yeah, technically it is the town of Hudson,
Township. And
kind of
they-
adjacent,
Yeah, they're
so.
not likely to be investing anything in a
Yeah,
walking path in an area that might not always remain in the town. You never know, maybe annex someday.
Right.
Okay, well, one concern I had is if we do make a trail improvement there, the average person who's out walking anyway on the shoulder right now, which I absolutely agree is not safe and not desirable, but now it suddenly looks like, okay, this is a walking path. What are we gonna say, no walking on it because it's not allowed because it's so close to the shoulder?
Oh, well, that's not for this option. Sorry,
This
if I wasn't
option,
clear.
so
This
the-
option's good.
This
Yes,
crosses,
we,
okay.
yes,
Thank
we
you.
made sure it meets kind of like clear
It'll
zone.
be far enough away.
Yes,
and-
yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the one that costs $325,000 does meet those. state
Yes,
guidelines.
yeah. I was just saying, say if we were just to, with the road, bump out the road shoulder.
shoulder itself, yes.
Yeah, so this is like, for the most part, completely
Creating a separate
separated.
trail.
Yeah,
That would be,
it kind of
would
meets
meet the
safety,
guidelines.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah, I think this road is, as you drive along or walk along or keep your eyes open, see who's walking out there. I think this is one stretch of the road that you don't see it. I mean, yes, you see people on bikes and you see people, and you look at that and think, ooh, I don't want that. Living on and raising a family on the south side of 94, and there's the middle school on the other side, and the high school and the YMCA. I mean, that stretch of the road is off limits to children, let's say. Like, you can't ride your bike to school because of that. So as far as you were saying, is this really that important? I know it's secondary now. I think we'd be surprised how that might open up, if that was a safe way to get from, the 94 interchange to the high school or whatever, by bike or by walking. I think people stay away from it right now because that's just a nasty area
Right.
to walk.
So you're saying if we build it, they will come?
I think so, rather than just, wouldn't it be nice if, you see a few people on the side of the road, it'd be nice to give them a sidewalk?
Yeah.
You see that a lot. I'm saying that this one is definitely one that I think that people avoid it because it's not, there's no safe way to, it's not pleasant to be walking on that shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, I did bike it once, and that was the last time I did it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Just because I was curious, yeah.
And that's the only way, north and south
Yeah,
there,
it's,
or go all the way down to 11th or whatever, but that's,
Well, one thing about the county, I've heard this mentioned before, that some of the people, when they're at a certain level or closeness to being released from serving their time in the county jail, that they're allowed Huber work release, and so they do walk and, go to many of the restaurants,
Okay.
fast food stores for those jobs. They're given permission to work and to leave, and they have to walk. So that might be a way of approaching the county to say, would you help us make this a safer street? And maybe they would look at their funding and see if they could
Yeah.
help us complete that, so that
good
people
idea.
that are leaving the jail, that might be a way to
Right.
appeal to they have their own budget and planning, no doubt, but that might be
Right.
a different way to approach it too, that they have people they're responsible for that are walking to their jobs on their work release. But seems like there's interest in our group, and thank you for sketching that out and looking it over. I know you're out in the field a lot, walking through things and evaluating, so appreciate it. This is not an action item tonight, I don't believe, but
Yeah, not really. I think it sounds like there is some interest, so we'll just kind of continue to look at options and.
Yeah, we might have to dig into some grant options
Yeah.
and see if there's something that we can apply that's easy to do.
All right.
okay, thank you again for that work, it's helpful. Okay, and then we have just a project update,
Yep.
which are you going to do that, Michael?
Yeah.
Thank you. Installation of noise walls.
Yeah, so about a year and a half ago, maybe, WISDOT reached out to us as staff, and then people that live in like Heritage Greens, Hudson Meadows. Did they reach out to your development, Red Cedar
I
Canyon?
think some of the neighbors on the backside of that.
Okay, so they were looking at doing a project as far as installing noise walls along Highway 35 in that part of the city. We just got word that they have moved forward with that project, and they will be communicating with the adjacent property owners about that installation. But they're looking at doing construction in 2025, so next summer. And in the packet is just a small map of kind of where those existing walls are already constructed, which there are some, and then where the new ones will be installed. So just kind of give you an update in case anybody asks you, Mike, specifically about this project. And I'll update Lynn as well, just let her know. I'm sure she got a letter, but just kind of keeping you in the loop of projects going on around town.
Thank you.
That's great, that's good to know. DOT is covering that expense.
Yep.
Any other project updates, or did anyone have questions for our staff on anything else?
I have a couple of questions. The racking, you did sell the racking, is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Racking is sold.
And then, could you maybe just let people know how the hybrid truck is working out for Public Works?
Yep. So I'm the primary driver of that vehicle, and so far so good. The electronic system in the truck itself keeps track of how many miles are electric and then how many are from unleaded fuel. So I think after a year, I kind of told Sarah that I would come in front of council and just say, hey, based on a year of driving, this is how many, how much money we saved in, fuel costs, and kind of, can extrapolate from there. So, but so far so good.
No impediments, you're able to do your business as normal,
Yep.
all is good?
Yep.
Appears like it's probably saving some fuel costs?
Yeah, I think there's, how many miles last time I looked? There's like 800 and some miles out of 3,500 or something like that. So about, a quarter of
Okay.
the miles are electric?
And then, with respect to the salt storage in this year,
Yeah.
are you in good standing, kind of thinking that we're going to be coming up into the snow season now? I think you got to save a lot from last year.
We were able to save, there was a buyback program, so we only used maybe not even a third of what we had allotted for. And fortunately for us, the state had a buyback program for a lot of communities so that we wouldn't have to take the full amount. So we were able to fill the shed. And so we're sitting with a full shed right now, and then we have our normal allotment for salt for the 2024-2025 season. So, yeah, we're sitting good. The brine tanks are filled up, the bead heat's filled up, so we're ready. Plows are hung, we're ready to go.
Okay,
Awesome, thank you.
word
Thanks.
to the wise. The rest of us get ready at home,
Yep.
right? Ready. Good. All right, thank you. Unless there's any comments or communication for future agendas, we can be adjourned.
One
I'm
thing
sorry?
to discuss, December meeting, we wanted to
Oh,
touch base
that's
on
right,
December
thank you for
meeting.
mentioning
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I understood from our staff that we might not have any topics for next month,
Yeah, it'll be a pretty quiet month, so
Okay.
more than likely we'll end up,
so we won't
Requesting a
be
cancellation,
planning to
yeah.
meet in December. Okay.
correct.
As it stands right now, then we won't be meeting again until January, at which time we'll look at the
Yep.
calendar for that year.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
Okay,
Move to adjourn.
thank you.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.